You can do this podcast on your own.
That's all right.
You can answer their own questions.
Oh, we're not starting
You
off
probably,
well
you
today.
probably, you probably prefer to ask yourself the question rather than
Dan-
me ask the question.
Daniel's not in a good mood today, so
I am in a
I have to
great
be
mood.
careful.
I'm in a great mood. But I'm all about collaboration,
Yeah,
Jess. I am. What did I say this morning? I said how good it is to have different perspectives
I
and how
agree.
important it is to go over scientific fundamentals
Yeah, I
and
agree.
how we can bring such fresh perspectives to it.
Yeah, it's just funny sometimes.
Why?
A few jobs, they're all right.
A few jobs.
What? You do it all the time to me.
I clearly don't give you enough jobs. So, what question do you want to answer today, Gemma?
The question that we're asking today is: do you have to eat differently every single day for
As an
performance?
athlete,
I
for
think, yeah,
performance.
for performance as an athlete, should you change your nutrition day to day?
I'm going to start by saying that there is something that bugs me, and it is bugging me an awful lot. And that is that we we feel we're very clear when we answer these questions, but our I feel like a lot of information, even that we provide that we're clear about, is taken out of context.
Mm.
Do you feel the same? Does it bug you?
Sometimes, and I think it can lead to over explanation or providing too much context. I find for myself, like when it annoys me and you provide more context, it can easily miss sometimes the simplicity of it. But if it's too simple, then you miss the context. That's how.
Well, what I find challenging is I think what I find really challenging is how people personalize a piece of information to them that isn't relevant to them. So we might be talking about a developing athlete. We may be understanding their needs are twice that of an average individual.
Hmm.
And then it could be a coach, it could be a parent, or it could be somebody who looks at that information and can't help but apply it to themselves and go, oh, I'm not sure about that. Well, no, you don't need it to be, it's not relevant to you. So you don't need to be sure about it. We're
Hmm.
talking about somebody who's training 5 days a week and who has incredibly challenging sessions to recover from and prepare for. It's a completely different level of attention.
Yeah, and that is the risk of generalizing nutrition and not personalizing it and not. I think even that word personalized it sometimes can get taken out of context too, of like maybe the level of detail someone goes to. But yeah, being able to identify who it is that this information applies to and in what context and for what purpose.
When you sit down and you put a piece of content together, whether that be written content or you are speaking to your audience online, who are you speaking to and how do you make that clear?
No, now, previously, I would have found that difficult because it would have been, I that's what I mean about I would have tried to provide too much context. It's always an athlete, but then there's also so many different people that it fits. Now I view it as sometimes mainly just going in and thinking of a young female footballer.
And who is an athlete?
Anyone that has that uh, competes in a sport and trains consistently each week.
How consistently? How often?
I would say minimum 3 times per week. You've got a consistent, maybe like pitch training schedule for the purpose of improving your sport or to compete in a sport.
And how intense are those sessions?
Varies between moderate to intense training sessions each week. You're training maybe you know, 6+ hours, and you've got a mixture of, you know, red days that are high intensity, and you've got some maybe one or two lower intensity sessions in there.
How are you measuring the intensity of the sessions? How do you know they're intense?
RPE, so your heart rate, how um if you're out of breath in those sessions for a long period of time
How long?
and over 30, 45 minutes. If you're training for, if you've got a training session at 60 to 90 minutes for, you know, 70% of that session, you're out of breath and it's tough. It's a high intense training session that requires appropriate fueling.
What's RPE?
Rate of perceived exertion. So your how hard you view the session based on generally how intense it is and how high your heart rate goes. So yesterday I was showed it to a 15-year-old rugby player, and he was straight away, as soon as he seen it, he was able to identify what type of session it was. But it was the difference between a gym session and a training session, where the gym session was like it was, the strain was high in his muscles, that it was a tough session. But RP based on a pitch session, it's hard because you're out of breath, and we're just talking about the differences between hard.
And what's a session that would rank or be rated very low on an RPE scale?
Anything that, well, a gym session would be more like moderate training, where that's the muscular strain, low intensity, not out of breath. And then a light run, a 5K, something that's in the zone 1, zone 2 area, is a low RP, where you're not out of breath, you can still maybe talk during the session, have a conversation, doesn't require significant fueling strategies, just more of an adapted approach.
I suppose it's taken us 5 minutes to give that context, and it's important context. But what I feel very often is that what a lot of young athletes are just perceive it, what they do, to be normal.
Mm.
I mean, an awful lot of athletes fall into the categories that you just explained. We don't need to talk about young athletes, different sports, and my example of Jimmy that's playing elite level soccer, elite level basketball, elite level rugby, elite level Gaelic football, elite level hurling, 14 sessions a week. And I find, you know, I think, yeah, I find it quite difficult sometimes to put this information out there. We know how important this information is, and then for it to be misinterpreted. And then a lot of people, I think one of the ones where I don't know, I shouldn't even maybe acknowledge this, but we'll give it the context around it
Yeah.
again. I went um, I went back over some information I put out there. I'm actually just going to double check this, but it was for creating a sports drink, and I provided the how you put together the sports drink. Yeah, that's right. So there's less than 5 grams of carbohydrate per 100 ml. Less than 5 grams. So I had suggested 300 ml to make the sports drink, which is still a very low carbohydrate sports drink.
Well, sorry,
And there
what?
was
Less than 5 ml carbohydrates in what?
per 100 ml
In what?
in Ribena.
Oh, okay, you didn't say that.
Oh, I thought I had said that was around the Ribena sports. Anyway, right. Well, so I put a video out about the Ribena, and I said 300 ml, which will give you a small amount of carbohydrate. You add a bit of salt and lemon, and you've got still a low carbohydrate sports drink.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the response: that's
Oh,
too
really?
sweet. There's too much sugar. Oh, sure, jeez.
And Ribena and mixed with water and a bit of.
Now, I'm not saying it's not sweet, but you're trying to make something that provides some level of energy and something that can be consumed with a bit of salt. But how that one small piece of information was taken out of context, even though the information is there, is just a very, very small example of how easy it is for people to go, there's too much sugar in that, or that's too sweet.
Yeah.
Do people who train, athletes, need to eat differently on different days? What is the value of doing that?
Well, I think athletes first need to look at just themselves and the demands that are placed on their week instead of maybe looking at something else and thinking, I'm just going to try that. First of all, personalize it, look at your week, look at your training demands. And then if more demands are being placed on your body, you're asking more from it, then the type of energy that you need to provide your body with needs to change to support better performance, better level of intensity, recovery, adaptation, and body composition comes into it as well. If you can match your nutrition to your training demands, your progress is going to be better all round, including performance outcomes, but also just being able to manage energy balance.
So break it down. How do you go about it?
Personalizing it first. So if you were able to, so what we do is map out your training week first, look at across a week, what type of training sessions are you doing? And then step 2 would be to rate those training sessions like we did at the start of this conversation: easy, hard, moderate, or green, amber, red, based on the intensity of those sessions. And then from there, you could start to map out your nutrition based on the main adjustment is you need to adapt your carbohydrate intake to match the intensity of the sessions that you've got that week.
So the first thing I think is important is, even if you're thinking about it from an energy expenditure, energy intake perspective,
Mm-hmm.
that's a fundamental part of this. Different days, different energy demands, and then you break it into the macronutrient or the carbohydrate components. And then we have to think about the way that food feels and the timing component of it. So there's different layers
Yeah.
of it to think about. And I think what was very beneficial about our conversation from our scientific discussion this morning around the paper was you talk about it as a system or as a framework. And when you fit food, it's like square and round pegs. Maybe maybe taking it too simple. But I was just trying to say, like, it's like this fits in here or this doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes quite straightforward. If you're clear about your needs, you're clear about the time, you're clear about the purpose of the meal, then it becomes, and I not necessarily, I don't want it to be necessary. We're just talking about it from an energy and from a nutrient perspective. I don't want it to feel too transactional, and I hate how, sometimes it can be simplified to a spreadsheet. We're not necessarily saying that, because you need your flavor and you need your taste and you need the experience of it. But there are critical components to think about that we've simplified.
Yeah. I do like thinking about it transactionally sometimes, even from the point of view of, well, if I enjoy this, I'm going to be consistent with it. That's still a level of transaction. I'm getting something from making sure that it's enjoyable. I'm supporting my training session. I'm going to be better recovered if I do these things. If I don't do these things, my recovery is going to be hindered. I'm going to be more tired. Like everything is like a trade off at some level, which is essentially a transaction.
Yeah, you're quite transactional when you
I just like to make sense of the world and
have you
question.
done that? Have you made sense of the world?
Yeah, if I'm confused about something, just create a framework and then just make a decision. Easy as that.
If you're confused, I really appreciate that on this podcast you acknowledge that you're frequently confused.
I think
I
people, if they've listened,
I am twisting your words. I acknowledge that there's a transactional component. I also feel like there's food that fits a really specific purpose that carries an awful lot of value to me, but has a unit of energy. And I think athletes have different tolerance for this, and maybe that's what I probably wanted to bring more clarity to. Like, what I mean by this is there's a certain texture, there's a certain taste that works really well for me. If I think about, I've talked about it so many times, like why maybe it's because I don't have to do it all the time, but why apple juice and Nature Valley bars and why potatoes and cornflakes work so well compared to Rice Krispies and bagels and other types. I just mean that they provide the same unit of energy, but the experience of them is it feels very personal, but very energizing and very positive for me. And you'll have a completely different set of foods that do exactly the same thing, but you feel about them you feel like they're personal for you too.
Yeah, but they're all in the same category. It's just
All in the
then
same category.
being aware of what the category is, the purpose of it, the time, and then the personalization is, oh, I like this better than this. And
What's the story with the McGuinness 70?
70 appearances.
Oh, seriously? So
Yeah.
70, exactly 70 appearances.
Yeah, it was funny because the other anyone everyone else was an odd number or
I thought you'd be an odd number too.
33. Perfect.
It's a good number.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I wouldn't have minded a few more.
Well, if you were feeling correctly. What do you think we need to make more clear? What do you think would help? I think about it from a stickiness perspective. I recorded a video yesterday with Milo, and it's the miss, and it is under the context of will you be ready when it matters most? Because I feel like that was the thing that made a big difference to me. And it's the sense of responsibility that I had to be prepared for the most important moments. And then that if you if you have prepared as well you can, then it's about a process of executing that moment. But don't leave something that's controllable on the table behind you. Don't have a level of fatigue because you haven't hydrated or you didn't have a system or you didn't eat enough. Don't let that be one of the reasons that affected your ability to execute under pressure.
Yeah. It's just, I suppose, setting the standards for, like, do you want to go out and perform your best? Then the reality is these are the things that are going to allow you to do that. And leaving something as simple as, not choosing the right foods the day before the match as a huge contributor to not having enough energy in the latter stages of the game is just like, seems such a wasted opportunity. And it's
Mm.
a simple, I suppose we say simple. It is simple when you break it down. You get a bit of support and you actually realize what the opportunity is and how it can help you. But the application of it is less straightforward for many.
I'll never get bored of trying to create that sense of awareness around its value.
Mm.
And I suppose I have so much experience, and I wonder. I'm always. I never try and lean on it too much, but I always think about it as such a strength. When I stepped into a dressing room with the teams that are up there, whether it be Ballyboden, Dublin, yeah, uh, Dublin, Leinster, whoever, I was in that dressing room and I looked around, and the players will be, the jerseys are hung up behind them and they're putting on their jerseys. And the sense of confidence that I had that this team was prepared for battle, and how they had executed it, like the level of detail that some of them, like, they didn't all go into that level of detail, but whether it was two bowls of cornflakes or whether it was sourdough bread and eggs or whether it was cottage pie, they all had their plan. And to see that unfold in such a systemized way and to see their ability to perform, it's an unbelievable feeling to be really well prepared and to have full confidence in your preparation.
Hmm. Yeah. I think it's the freedom that it allows you as well to, like we said before, like focus on other things because you've got that taken care of and you don't have to worry about not getting your nutrition right or maybe early dips in energy or like none of that comes into the equation if you're prepared physically. And then it's just about you step into another space of thinking of being able to have the worst thing, the worst feeling ever, I think, in a way, is to be know what you need to do, but be so tired that you can't physically do it. Like if you know you need to be covering here or you need to be in this position, but the like fatigue is holding you back, that's like ultimately a level of preparation that needs to be taken care of so that you can focus on just simply doing what you need to do in the pitch right until the very end, not dying off then the last 10, 15 minutes of the game when
I'm going to add something to that: fatigued and uncomfortable, because I think the experience of not timing the meal right or thinking that a can of Coke or a can of Red Bull is going to solve that fatigue problem, and the implications of that, like not understanding. And like even that, I did a video last week, got a message from one of our clients who had consumed pancakes 90 minutes beforehand and felt sick. And I'm not going to lie, I
19.
that's frustrating too when there's so much information and we've mentioned it so many times. But I think it's also a reminder of how many times, no more than the framework that we talked about this morning for us as a team, how many times you have to mention, because there's somebody out there that doesn't know it's 3 to 4 hours that you eat before a big game. There's always there's you no matter how many times you heard it, people either make the mistake or they don't understand it enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the difference, I suppose, in getting something simple, a bit of information, trying it yourself, but not then maybe really understand it, maybe needing that extra level of support and help to like build it out. And the importance of just being aware if you didn't get it right, then do you need an extra bit of support to figure this out, to trial it, and then put something maybe better in place for you personally. And I think that's sometimes just it would close the gap so much for people if they just maybe invested in a little bit of support to get this right and not have to worry that you're doing all this trial and error yourself when a simple conversation could be the biggest difference that would just get it get it right or close those mistakes and create better opportunities.
Yeah. So athletes do need to eat differently in different days.
Yes, they do. I don't think we did a good enough job in the framework that we've created and how we help to simplify this. Because if you look at your week or go back to the start of this conversation where we talked about generally a team sport athlete is going to have different types of training sessions throughout the week. They're going to have pitch days where anyone doesn't have to be a team sport athlete, but just given the example right now, pitch sessions generally are going to be red days. We would label these as perform. So our framework is play, pause, perform. And other days, like maybe a gym session, S&C session, skill session might be lower intensity and therefore require a different types of meals that would be lower in carbohydrate. And then pause days are your recovery days, light activity, maybe active recovery, rest days. And it's an opportunity where you can start thinking about other micronutrients or nutrients that can you don't really get the opportunity to consume on those higher intensity days. So this is where you can look at more fiber, higher fat foods, more omega-3 fatty acids, more color, more veg, more variety, more micronutrients that are going to sit well because you're not going into higher intensity sessions that you're going to have that impact on your gut if you start consuming those types of foods that are high fiber, high fats. You want to be consuming that before a big training session. So this is why we like to, it's called periodizing your nutrition. And we try to simplify that as much as possible by labeling our recipes with play, pause, perform. And those tags help our athletes. We've seen them build out their plans. They put pictures into the group, they send them on, and they're be able to do it themselves and make the decisions fairly easily because they've followed an approach, have something simple to make it easy for them, and yeah, allows for the freedom as well to explore different recipes and, like you said, try different foods that sit under the perform category, but then personalize it by looking at what they would like rather than maybe what somebody else might choose.
Yeah. Well, I think you did it there. I think it's the whole thing. Of course, this is what we do. I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating to simplify it. And I always say this, that it's then about living the experience, living the food, and that is just what you do. You mentioned freedom a little bit earlier, but then I saw Ronaldo talking about how his friends say that he's sick. The way that he lives, it's sick. And he said, I just don't view it like that. It's something that works for me. You know,
Mm.
it's and I get that. He's on the very far left or right. He's very far in the spectrum of what he does to be consistent. But he's very clear that's that's how
Normal
he
for him.
lives, and that's normal for him.
Mm.
And then what you want to try and create, I guess, is your normal, but that fits your performance and that fits your needs, both physically and mentally.
Mm.
And that's the value of having a play, pause, perform for the framework. Winning moment.
I don't think I said it last. I can't remember that. Oh, last week was no. Well, it wasn't during this week, but it was last week. But I think it happened after the last call. Was two of our athletes on the Verse Performance and the athlete program. So one's a long term client, one's a couple of months has been working with us, and one has gained a scholarship to America, moves over in August, and the other is in her about to go into her second year. So the client who's moving over to America, she just mentioned that she was a little bit anxious about moving over, really excited, but obviously comes with it a little bit of nerves and not knowing what's coming next and knowing that this is going to be such a step up in demands and training and what's expected over in America compared to what she's used to in Ireland. So I think we can say the name. Well, Holly, who she's been on her social media a number of times, she has had a whole story journey with her nutrition and performance, and struggled with injury in her first year and the change in demands. And she's gone through a whole experience of being able to like really set herself up for the second year. But now she's in a position where she's helping um, Olivia with her step up and her journey now over to America. So it was a really cool moment for yeah, for to get the two clients never met before, get them into a call, discuss the challenges, what's going to happen, some of the strategies that they used and what's helped. So just letting them have that conversation and facilitating it was a really great moment.
No, that's very cool. Very cool. Mine, I'm going to do two very simple ones this week. I have a game tonight,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel prepared. I've trained not at the kind of level, obviously, that I would be used to training, but I trained with the local club team up here on Monday evening, and we did a full hour and played games, and we did some shooting, and I felt something in how I striked the ball that I haven't felt in 3 and 4, 7 years. 7 years. And it's the type of contact where you feel like you've got fit enough to produce enough of this kind of power on your strike. And you need to have a certain level of fitness, and you need to have a certain number of reps done. And I have not done that in a long, long time. Now I could go out tonight and kick 4 or 5 wides or pull my hamstring. Who knows? But I feel prepared, and that's a good feeling. That's a winning feeling. And the second thing is I work with a young golfer, Gavin, and Gavin and I had a call this week. And Gavin's, I, we talk a lot about the mental skills component and the process because I'm after submitting an assignment that was very, very significant. And I built out the whole assignment about reset. So the ability to reset, particularly after a bad shot or a bad moment in sport, a mistake or an error, not a bad moment, but a moment that needs a reset. And he said something. I said, the more I understand about this and the more I realize how important it is, the more I think, how are young athletes not more aware? How is there not more investment? How is there not? There's so much value. And he was quiet on the end of the phone, and I didn't know what he was thinking. Because obviously we talk regularly about this, and he said, you can spend so much time, hours, days, weeks, trying to improve your irons, and that might help, obviously, with your accuracy. But he said, if you haven't got the skills and you can't deal with the frustrations of what golf, the game is, which is mistakes and errors, he's like, that's going to cost you every time. And just to hear him talk about the value of the process around the reset and dealing with mistakes, and the way that he, in his language and his sense of value around it, I thought, wow, that's a big moment.
Mm.
Thanks for listening, everyone. If you want to know more about our framework, our playbooks, our coaching, drop us an email, send us a message.
No, just go on to the website.
Let's go on the website.